With all the talk these days about mental health awareness in society, I bet you're thinking that you can spot all the signs of anxiety. Well, I'm here to tell you that you might be wrong there. Hi, I'm Linda. This is Linda's World. This is Self-Care Sundays, and tonight we're talking about the signs of high-functioning anxiety. 2 weeks ago on this channel, we explored high-functioning depression, and since anxiety is the cousin of depression, well, I thought its time had come. So if you want to know all about high-functioning anxiety and some of the signs you can recognize in yourself and in others, well, stick around, because this episode of Linda's World starts right now. Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, in a world known as the 1980s when there was no internet, people were sometimes absent from school. And when you were, it was your personal responsibility to call up a classmate of yours and get the homework assignments so you didn't fall behind in school. Now, I was one of those people, as I was raised in the 1980s, and I remember vividly the huge knot that was in my stomach, like a huge rubber band ball, if you will, that would creep up my esophagus, puncture my guts, and come out through my throat when I knew that I had to pick up that old corded phone from the 1980s, dial the number, and say, "Hi, this is Linda. I wanted to know if there was any homework today. I was absent." Now, my mother and I have always jokingly called it phone phobia. I have to rehearse conversations in my head before I pick up the phone to dial for a doctor's appointment, a hairdresser's appointment, even a family member that I know to wish them a happy birthday. I make a series of mental sticky notes in my head to just anticipate all the directions the conversation can take so I don't sound stupid, as so many people fear who have anxiety. And now this phone phobia that I have always referred to it as, well, I didn't have the vocabulary when I was 8 or 9 to know what it was. It was anxiety. Okay. Now, when we think of anxiety, we normally think of a person who's incapable of functioning, who's pacing back and forth and wondering about all the outcomes and can't get on the subway or go into buildings or malls or anything because they're crippled by their fear and they have agoraphobia and they just can't go out there, right? And that may be true in some cases, and there are people like that, of course, but high functioning anxiety refers to the person who, for all purposes, is still functioning. Still going out there every day, still going to work, still going to dinner with friends, still going shopping, doing all the things that people do, except that inside they're quaking with fear like a frightened squirrel in the park. And they don't tell you. Okay? How do I know this? Well, remember those old commercials? I'm not just a spokesperson, I'm also a client. Well, I'm also a client. I've been suffering from anxiety since, well, I want to say birth, but I don't think people would believe me. So now, the thing about high-functioning anxiety is that it comes with some positive traits, okay? And so I'm going to share with you this evening the positive traits, the negative traits, and then, of course, because it's Self-Care Sundays, what we can do to alleviate the situation. So let's start with the positive, okay? Now, these people, the high-functioning anxiety people, are very outgoing. Okay. Often they're incredibly humorous. They laugh and they tell jokes and they smile and they're the first person to see on the elevator and say, "Working hard or hardly working," or "How about this heat?" Little cliches like that. They will tell jokes at the party. They will laugh. They will be, just infectious happiness, and bring to the table a whole bunch of joy and energy and vivacity. Okay. These are people who are also incredibly organized, okay? You want a piece of paper? They've got one. You want a battery? They've got a battery. You want a pen? They've got a pen, okay? They don't even have a junk drawer. They are categorized and organized and tidy down to a T. If they want to find that piece of paper they had in 1998, well, they'll just go into the drawer and get it, okay? And these... this, of course, we know that the over-planning for every possible worst-case scenario is the reason why they're organized, but of course, it doesn't read that way. It reads as a person who has their shit together, right? Of course, like I said, frightened squirrel inside, okay? Now, these people are often very helpful. Okay, they're very passionate and loyal people to their friends and family, and they will go the extra mile to do anything you ask. These are people who haven't heard the word no. So therefore, the high-functioning anxiety person, in their quest to never disappoint, will make it their business never to disappoint. These are the people you can call at 2 a.m. and say, "I've been drinking too much, I can't drive home, will you help me?" And they will. These are the people who will say to you, "Oh my God, I don't have my homework, can I copy yours?" And they can. Okay, these are the people who will, who always say words like, "Don't worry, it's no problem." okay, even when it is, because they are there to help you. They are fiercely loyal, intensely energetic, incredibly helpful, and they're Johnny on the spot at all times, okay? And of course, it's because of some of the negative things that I'm about to list to you, right? And finally, on the positive note, these people appear to be calm, okay? Like I said earlier at the start of this video, there's that old cliche of the anxious person doing the pacing or whatever, walking around in their bathrobe, like chain smoking, saying, oh my God, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? You don't see that with a person with high functioning anxiety. After all, they're high functioning, right? So these are people wearing business suits like everybody else. These are people who are just going through life, and you see them online at the grocery store, you see them in the board meeting at work, okay? And they're just being people, they're just being a human, and you wouldn't in any way, shape, or form know that inside they were quaking in their boots, because they outwardly appear to be very calm, and they're often very calm in a crisis, okay? If something happens, if there's a crisis situation that doesn't that has nothing to do with them, it's all good. They will help you, because they're often much better at solving the problems of others than the problems that they have themselves. Okay, and of course, that's the perfect intro to our negative qualities. Now, a person with high functioning anxiety, as I said, is always Johnny on the spot, right? Well, the negative spin on that is the first negative thing, in which is called a people pleaser. Okay, now because a person who's anxious is always worried that they will disappoint people, their answer to every question is yes. I've seen those challenges online where people saying yes to everything for an entire day. Like if a question is asked of them, they have to answer yes. Like that movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey. And it's interesting, to say the least. But the thing is that a person who has high functioning anxiety and is terrified of people being disappointed in them or angry with them, they say yes anyway to things that are a huge challenge to them. The biggest lie they tell all day is, don't worry, I've got it, it's no problem, right? And they tell that lie several hundred times a day, because far be it from them to not please all the people all the time, okay? And so to be a people pleaser is extremely exhausting, and that leads us to our next negative quality, which is insomnia, okay? The people pleaser, the anxious person, will never ever have a brain that is at rest. And if your brain is not at rest, you can't sleep, because sleep involves both the psychological and the physical. Okay, sleep is a physiological experience. So your body may be crying with exhaustion from all the things you've had to do that day, but it's 3 a.m. and you're sitting up there worrying about a banking snafu, and then it's 4:30 and you're up worrying about a conversation you had yesterday that may or may not have gone your way. Okay, and because you can't shut off the mind, you can't get an adequate night's rest, and therefore you're never properly rested for the challenges that lay in the day ahead. And of course, being a people pleaser, you've got multiple challenges because you've just said yes to everybody. Okay, now another negative situation is that these people will often exhibit nervous behaviors, okay, such as the twirling of the hair, which if you've seen any of my videos, you'll know I'm famous for, and cracking knuckles, lip biting, things like that, purposely counting and recounting and touching and retouching things, almost an obsessive compulsive disorder phenomenon, because the little man in their heads tells them that they have to keep count, and they have to make sure that everything, a place for everything and everything in its place, that they have to, they have to spin the earth, they have to control the universe, and so they have to make sure that the knobs are turned and that the pencils are in order and whatever, okay, because that's their way of controlling their environment. And those nervous habits, they also take a lot of physical strain sometimes to constantly be worrying about, did I turn off the faucet in the bathroom and things like that. So therefore, that lends itself to the insomnia, because it's an awful lot of physicality in worry, like there's an awful lot of, they always say stress takes 10 pounds off you. Well, I can't imagine the people who are nervous don't all weigh 60 pounds, because you find yourself running from fire to fire with only a spray bottle to put it out at all times. And I think I've used that metaphor in another video before, and I believe it to be true, because that's kind of how I conduct business in my life. And so I just figured I'd share, because, the things on this list aren't just abstract to me. They're sort of how I live. So just saying. So another negative situation is the fact that these people are constantly looking for reassurance. Okay. The person with high functioning anxiety will go to a place that they've never been before, but they will ask for directions multiple times. They will look for it on, they will use Google Maps, Apple Maps, and Waze because they don't trust it. And then they will call a friend too. They will check with others frequently. Are you sure this is okay? Am I doing a good job? Are you sure you want this? Do you want me to go here now? Okay. And the questions because they want to make sure that nobody's disappointed in them, because hugely wrapped in their anxiety is the fear that they're a disappointment to others and being a big loser. Okay, so in an effort not to be a loser, you have to double check and triple check and quadruple check that shit to make sure that you're doing an okay job and that people don't think you're a weenie or that you're doing something wrong. Okay, now procrastination is an interesting one, because you may be saying, but Linda, procrastination is putting things off, and you're telling me they take on multiple challenges. Well, yeah, and they get to them eventually, but the trouble with procrastination is that you get to it and often it's too late and it presents a different challenge because now you're under the gun. Like you're like, oh my god, I was supposed to have paid my bills on Tuesday, or oh my god, I was supposed to have talked to my boss on Monday and now I didn't, and now I'm in a hole. Okay, why procrastinate? Because you're so worried about the stuff that's happening from before that you can't even worry about the future because you've got too much on your plate in the present. You know what I mean? So shit doesn't get done, and then all of a sudden it becomes a thing. Right? And it's interesting. It's a weird dichotomy to want to get things done, but simultaneously do nothing. That's what procrastination is, and it's hilarious, right? But not to those people who are experiencing it. It's sort of just funny when other people make fun of us for it, And again, I speak from personal experience. All right. Now, what's interesting about the person who experiences high functioning anxiety is that often people find you difficult to read. Okay? People will find you cold or unemotional or stoic or detached, and you're not. It's really interesting that they should think this way of you, because it's not that you're feeling nothing at all, it's that you're feeling so much at one time that you cannot outwardly emote it because you're too busy worried about how you're emoting. Okay? Like the person with high functioning anxiety worries so greatly about stuff that happened before, stuff that's happening right now, and stuff that might happen in the future, that they're in a zone and they kind of look, and a person's like, hello, are you in there? And it's like, yes, I am. I'm sorry. I'm too busy quaking in my boots right now. Okay. And so they come off as cold and detached from you when really they're just waiting for their turn to speak and trying not to F it up because they're terrified that they will, and we're getting to the end of the list here. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned this evening that one of the negative experiences regarding high functioning anxiety is the constant comparison to others. Okay? There are some people who are fortunate enough on this planet to not get their self-worth from other people. There are people for whom their weight doesn't matter. The amount of money they have in the bank doesn't matter. They don't pay attention to fashion trends. They don't measure their success in school or work against other students or coworkers, and if that's you, that's fantastic. Okay. But a person with high functioning anxiety doesn't experience that. A person with high functioning anxiety is in a constant state of weighing. So they will weigh their success against the success of another. An 88 on a test is a lovely thing to achieve, but it becomes meaningless when you sit next to the kid who got a 93. Okay. Your boss telling you get a raise is a wonderful thing, but it gets lost in the translation when your coworker gets one too, because then you're not special anymore, and like, what have you accomplished, And so in a state of constant comparison, using other humans as a measuring stick for yourself, it's incredibly tiresome, and it's incredibly it's irritating to the people who listen to you when you talk about it at home. And it's certainly no way to live your life. And because the thing is, the person with anxiety doesn't get the fact that we're all individuals, and that one man's trash is another man's treasure, and that to each his own, and all those cliches that we were taught when we were kids, in an effort to not get us to compare ourselves to other humans. We miss that memo, and so we do, and we compare ourselves at all times. And not even in the cliche way of like checking our weight against supermodels or anything. Literally everything. The guy next to us on the train, is he living a better life than us? You know, we wonder these things because we have high functioning anxiety. Okay. And finally, I would like to say that I think one of the most, I guess it's almost the saddest thing that we experience as people with high functioning anxiety is inability to simply relax and enjoy the moment. Okay? The way I like to put it is, you know the old expression to stop and smell the roses? A person who suffers from anxiety kind of can't, because that person is too worried about the thorns. You know, they could sit in the middle of a wonderful evening with friends, and instead of enjoying the wonderful evening with friends, they'll be worried that it'll never happen again because their friends are secretly mad at them and won't call them for another time. These are people who could be enjoying a lovely date, but decide that they've messed it up because of something they said, and therefore they are going to never be called back by this person, and they can't even sit back and enjoy a meal and a conversation that's going well with another person of the opposite sex or the same sex, because they're too wrapped up in what if this doesn't work. You know, like I said, we can't stop and smell the roses because we're too busy counting the thorns. Okay? And it's actually kind of sad because, you know, living in the now is a wonderful thing that people ought to really practice doing, and it's a surefire sign of being able to have longevity in your life, and to go to bed at night with a clear conscience and sleep well and live a long, happy life surrounded by friends and family and enjoying the sunshine in the day. You know, it sounds wonderful, but it's easier said than done for some people, because those of us with high functioning anxiety are so wrapped up in what's going to happen that we can't enjoy what is, you know. Now, I'm not going to talk your ear off tonight. It is Self-Care Sundays, so I just want to leave you with the final piece of the puzzle here. We've gone over the positives and we've gone over the negatives, and so now, putting it all together, self-care means taking care of yourself. That's what the whole series is on this channel. So you might be asking at this point, Linda, we're like 17 minutes in here, what do we do about it? How is this self-care? You've just rattled off psychological concepts to me. I know, because I'm long-winded, but here's the thing. You see, what you want to do is you want to practice what I said was a negative quality here for a minute, except positively, which is weigh yourself against something, okay? Instead of weighing your self-worth against another person, weigh your behaviors and your thoughts against some of the things that I've said this evening, okay? And if you find that you are a person who meets some of these criteria, or if you're fine with yourself and you know a person in your personal life, someone you love that meets the criteria, okay, then maybe it's time to have that conversation with them, yourself, or with a professional, or with a valued close friend, or whoever it is that you feel you could talk to about what ails you, and start thinking of a course of action for yourself. Because I'm telling you right now, as a person, like I said, I'm also a client. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about here personally. It is certainly no way to live. And I'm not going to stand here, or, well, sit here and tell you that I'm great at it, because I'm not. Okay, I falter every day. But, you know, hopefully the good will outweigh the bad. There'll be more good days than bad days eventually. And we will all just sort of live our lives and be people, you know. And I think that it begins with a conversation. Even if it's a conversation with ourselves in the mirror, or ourselves in our journal that we write at night, or ourselves in the air, or our cat or our dog, you know. I find that talking to my dog Chloe actually helps me a great deal. I've been talking to my animals since I became a pet mom 18 years ago. And that conversation, you know, when you get it out of your head, you'll find that identifying the problem is, you know, the first step, of course, as they say. And then, of course, step 2 would be searching for the answer. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say that there's magical answers, because there aren't. But I think that one of the answers, or at least one of the, I guess the beginning of the journey in looking for it, is to identify the situation as it unfolds and tell yourself, remind yourself in the moments that I just described, that you don't have to live your life this way. And if possible, try the alternative and see if that works for you. Now, some of us may elect to speak to a medical professional about this. The beauty of therapy is that it is an hour or 45 minutes or whatever, once a week, that you could take to discuss yourself with a person who is completely impartial. You know, it's not your mom who feels bad for you and thinks that everything you do is wonderful. It's not your spouse who wants you to be okay because they want the marriage to work out. It's not your friend who has problems of their own that they're trying to work out. It's a medical professional, a person who's licensed and has the skills to help you through the difficult concepts that I'm talking about. Okay? And of course, in these times when we're all stuck in our homes under quarantine, therapy in the traditional couch setting is, you know, sort of moot, you know, but that's cool because we have the internet. You know, unlike the days in the 1980s when I had to call up and be nervous for my homework instead of just getting it on Google, you know, we have Google now, and we have various internet outlets for therapy that can come right to our text thread if we want to. So I'm going to leave some links to those things in the description, and I'm going to leave you with a little something at the end of this video to remind you that help is out there, even in quarantine. I am not going to belabor the point anymore. I'm going to just simply say that I'm Linda. This is Linda's World. This is Self-Care Sundays. And if you like what you've seen, then why don't you go ahead and give this video a like, the thumbs up out there, and also drop a comment. Did I miss anything? Is there a sign of high-functioning anxiety that you've noticed in yourself or others that I didn't cover this evening? Or what's been your personal experience? Let me know. Drop me a comment. And of course, as I always say, if you're not yet a subscriber, if you're just finding this video by happenstance on the internet tonight, well then, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, and while you're at it, hit the notification bell so you can tell when new videos drop to this channel. Linda's World is an inspirational channel, a place where you can come to get the tools you need to live your best life, even when you're not exactly living your best life. And with that, I leave you, and I say I will see you for Top 10 Tuesdays, and you guys have yourself a good night, morning, afternoon, whenever you're watching this video, and think about what I said and recognize the signs, and you too can end the vicious cycle of anxiety if you try. Have a good one. Bye.